Atomfall is surprisingly incredible. I'm yet to finish it. Josh Brown has. And we're going to break various things down as to potentially why you should play it as well. JB, how are you finding it?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I finished it last night after a crisp 25 hours. That was pretty much a completionist playthrough as well. That was getting 5 of, I think, 7 endings and combing the map as much as I possibly could.
Good lord.
A few outstanding things here and there that I did not find. But yeah, pretty much everything in the books, as it were. And I enjoyed every second of it, Scott. It's got its issues, but as a promising new IP, I think it does a lot and satisfied me in ways I wasn't expecting.
I want to say, and I know people's mileage varies in regards to game length, but if you're saying you can see the vast majority of this thing for a nice crisp 25 hours, that is music to my ears. Atomfall is from developers Rebellion. They're known for the Sniper Elite series. As far as I know, this is the first time they've done a first-person open world RPG, and so I like they're attempting it. They're not stretching themselves too thin. I've only played maybe the first 45 minutes or something. I need to get through a hell of a lot more of it. But it was very, very promising. But that is very good to know.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess I want to start with the structure of it, because that's definitely the most interesting thing. What I love about this is, even though, it is shorter relatively compared to other RPGs that might spring to mind, namely Fallout, what I love about the way this game is structured is how player-driven it is. So instead of getting regular quests from like NPCs or whatever, you'll encounter what they call leads, and you can get some of those leads by talking to NPCs, but you can get a lot of them by just exploring in the world. And that's how quests are structured. So it's not like someone just saying, hey, you need to go to X place and destroy this thing. You'll pick up notes that suggest that an item you need is, I don't know, down the road in this hut. Then you'll go to the hut, and then that will give you another clue to where you need to go next.
Give you a bit of pizza.
But what I like about it is there's not just like one path throughout all of these quest lines. You can find that information depending on where you are in the story, where you are in the map, where you've decided to go out and explore, who you've decided to kill. And that is a piece of exploration that I found very satisfying, because again, it puts the focus on you and kind of following your nose and following what interests you. And if you don't want to explore those leads, you don't have to. You might stumble upon a bit of information later on that gets you back on track, but you can entirely ignore it. And the game itself is really, really open when you first jump into it. It's split up into, I think, 3 or 4 different maps. But you can get into those different areas very, very quickly. There are obviously a few roadblocks here and there. Some will have big robots patrolling the moors that will flamethrower you to a crisp.
They did.
Whereas others might have like locked doors that require you to have an item that you might not get without exploring another zone. But you can go anywhere, and you can find those leads quite early, and you can do things quite often out of order if you want. So even though it is a shorter experience, a more focused experience, the way I go through it is probably going to be entirely different from the way you go through it. Like you've already mentioned, going to those moves and encountering the
first place
robots.
I went was clearly where I wasn't supposed to be.
Right, yeah.
But it was a fun feeling, because I was like, let me see how long I can survive here. Oh, I can't. I'll have to go somewhere else. But the fact that you can and get some loot from there and then return is cool.
Exactly, like you could sneak through it. You could follow a lead that sent you there, get in and then get out and return later when you're feeling a bit more powerful. That side of it was just, I found that truly engrossing. It was similar to the way Avowed was structured with its open world. And while I came to dislike that because it felt a bit repetitious and stretched out towards the end of its playtime, I liked how gamey the environments felt initially, and how you would explore an environment that wasn't too massive but was dense with interesting things and points of interest. And Atomfall definitely has that. It's not the biggest world, but all of the maps, you're constantly stumbling upon something, whether it's a druid hideout with a bunch of Wicker Men effigies, or whether it's like a ritual site or a crashed helicopter. And again, because you have these leads tied to all of these different locations, it's always giving you a piece of the puzzle or another breadcrumb that sets you off in another direction. You start ratting around looking for more.
That's how this guy plays
for
games.
more morsels.
And you were the controller.
Yeah.
I want to talk about the Englishness side of this, because if people don't know, the game's set in the Lake District in the UK, like sort of the northwest-ish of the country itself. And there's a lot of regional accents. The game seems to be a bit of a melting pot of just all the major UK dialects, UK accents, which is awesome. I've loved that stuff from what I've seen so far. But how's that feel overall? Because I think it's quite easy to view Atomfall as English Fallout, and at least it was to me. And even the way the game opens. The tone, the way that they set the scene, they say this thing happened with the wind thing.
Wind scale
disaster in I think 1975 or whatever it was. And going from there, the way they introduced that stuff, they kind of do a flashback, black and white style film telling you what happened. That felt a little bit like a Fallout style. Here's this thing from Vault Tech telling you what happened in the past before you try and figure it all out. It's an amnesiac story going forward. But you are throwing it into such a rich culture or melting pot of cultures. How's that still feel? Because I'm looking forward to the English representation.
Yes,
Lord.
it's great in that regard, I thought. There is a lot of Fallout in there, but it definitely diverges in a lot of different ways. The tone sometimes is similar, but like you never get the satire of the Vault Tech, which can be overly goofy sometimes if you play Fallout 4 or Fallout 76, where it leans a bit too much on the side of silliness for my liking. There's a great sense of place with Atomfall, and I think that's in part captured, yes, thanks to the writing and voice acting, like you said, which covers a lot of Northern English accents, and you've got, a bunch of, like you said, a melting pot of other accents from around Britain as well. But it's the art direction that I love the most. Like, it's not only a really good-looking game, better than I was expecting. I went down to play the preview a few weeks ago, and I thought it looked pretty good then, but I was shocked by how much better it looked when I was playing it, admittedly on a PlayStation 5 Pro on my big TV. But yeah, it looked great. It ran without flaw, essentially.
I was going to say, do you know if it's Pro enhanced or is that just...
It is, yeah.
Right, cool, okay.
Yeah. As far as I'm aware, it is, yeah.
Because I'm on the performance mode, which I'll still say looks like completely fine. Like, I'll always prioritize frame rate.
Yeah.
But it is a very snappy game. Like, for as much as Sniper Elite is more of a methodical thing, you can play this more stealthily and slower. But when you get into firefights or you just decide to pop a headshot or whatever, I did find that to be super, really, really immediate and responsive.
That's interesting because, I don't even think you have an option on the Pro between balanced or quality. I think it must just blend the two. It feels like it's running at 60 and it looks really impressive. But it's not just how well the game looks, it's the consistency of the art style for me. Like you said, you're in the Lake District, you're in Cumbria, and it's got that sort of post-war British feel. And because the environments aren't too big, it means that there's a lot of detail in those environments, whether it is the rundown shacks or whether it's like a old quaint English village that has been overrun by the military and robots that you're walking around under kind of like a martial law situation. You're going into tea shops. People are obviously...
You get a cup of tea.
You can get a cup of tea. People are obviously doing things that are not just selling tea, let's say. They've got secrets. They've got mysteries behind them. But yeah, that element is what attracted me to the game to begin with. And thankfully, it remains distinct throughout. I was worried that it was going to be a little bit, here or there, or it was going to be kind of English, it was going to be kind of Northern, but it was going to maybe dilute it a little bit.
I want to know, obviously we're not going to do spoilers, but did you find the level of satisfaction to the way the story went? Because you do wake up in a bunker in one of these vaults, let's call them, or whatever, where you don't know how you got there, you don't know who you are, you're talking to a scientist who's saying, look, get this information to this other place and figure everything out from there, which obviously a way to gamify the idea of just exploring the world as whichever direction you would like. Did you find the story to be satisfying by the end? And what was your general thoughts on that side of things?
Yeah, no, I did. I think there's a lot of interesting mysteries that pop up. Essentially, nobody really knows what's going on in the zone after it's been quarantined, and a bunch of different factions have popped up. There's the druids that I mentioned, who are they hear voices in the soil, and you have to figure out what's going on with that. There are outlaws, and then there's the military, like I said. What I like about the story, and I have a few issues with it as it goes on, but the mysteries that it sets up, like what is this? What is the Windscale factory that you're going into? What is this nuclear plant that they build? Why is the military here? Who are these different NPCs that you're encountering? They all, for me, had satisfying payoffs, and it makes you think, because even though there isn't that kind of Fallout NPC mission like structure where you just go into someone over and over again and sending you out, you're encouraged to align yourself with certain NPCs that have their own motivations and trying to figure out what they are. Okay. I thought that was really interesting and led to some interesting consequences further on down the line where...
you could tell they were yours.
Yes, 100%. Yeah, where I've trusted someone and helped them out when I probably shouldn't have trusted them or helped them out, because then they might have messed up something else that I was trying to do.
Right.
That kind of like knock-on effect. It doesn't happen loads, but it definitely helps round out the overall mystery of what's going on in this place, because it's to me, it was satisfying, like I said, figuring out people's mysteries and then deciding, oh, have I done the right thing by helping them? Should I have done something a little bit different? And I think that might encourage replayers going forward, because like I said, there are 2 endings that I didn't do because they were characters that I either didn't align with or just didn't bother with at all, and thought, I don't even want to talk to you.
Okay.
Don't like the look of you.
Get away from me. But 7 endings in total.
I think so. I don't
More than 1 anyway.
More than 1. Definitely a good few. I got definitely, let me count them up on camera right now. I got 1, 2, 3, 4. I got 4 of them last night, and there was at least 2 more.
Oh, is that just a case of reloading the save, doing something different right near the end?
Yeah, so the way I played was...
I like that style, to be honest.
The thing
Saves
is,
me replaying the whole thing.
The way I played it was very completionist. So for some of the quests, you don't have to decide until the very end who you're going to align with. But for a couple of them, like you need to decide early on, and you can lock those off when you get further on down the line. Okay. And if you don't do everything in the maps and kind of end up going to the final mission before you're fully ready, or before you maybe followed some quest lines, then you lock some of those out as well. So if you're doing it, like if you're combing everything, you'll get to that final section of the game and you'll be able to then reload and kind of do things a little bit differently. But you definitely, I don't think, will be able to do everything on one playthrough. There will come a point where you have to go back and then say, okay, I'm going to see how this character's storyline went if I went with them.
Can you optionally kill NPCs that are important to the story by accident? Or choose to? And then also, it's a separate thing, but we'll get onto it, just the skill trees and the upgrades and that kind of stuff. But can you affect the game world by killing someone that is meant to be important?
Yeah,
Kingdom Come Deliverance 2.
One of the first things I did, I was getting used to the control scheme, as it is.
Just shot a guy.
And I walked up to a guy. I just had a lovely conversation with him. He was a lovely miner, Scott. Right. M-I-N-E-R.
Yes, in the mines. Yes.
In the mines. He was a lovely Geordie bloke.
I know who you mean.
Yeah.
You killed him?
Yeah. I went to go talk to him again and accidentally snapped his neck. And I had to reload. I had to reload the save because I just brutally murdered him, and I was so gutted. But
the neck snap is so satisfying in this game.
But you can. I noticed when I was messing around with the endings, like there are those NPCs you talk to. If you wanted to, don't know why you would, but if you wanted to, you could just snap the neck or shoot them.
Someone's going to do will die. What happens to this? Maybe that's one of the endings you don't have. Yeah. What happens if you kill literally everybody in Atomfall? Yeah. and it has to have some sort of other ending. But that's awesome. This kind of sounds like, a video game, which I'm always for. Yeah. It doesn't feel like it's got too lost in the production side of things. I know there's been various interviews with members of Rebellion talking about the challenges of going from Sniper Elite to this thing. And I forget the name of their CEO, but talking about balancing the books, trying these new ideas. And making sure that they are able to do it and get it over the finish line. So if there are some corners cut, it's not going to look as gorgeous as something like Assassin's Creed Shadows or whatever, but still very impressive.
Still looks good.
Different art styles, obviously.
Yeah.
But raw rendering tech or whatever the hell you want to call it that you would put money into. I still think that this sounds incredibly impressive. Like they've balanced storytelling agency. There's so much personality. Yeah. Graphics seem really, really solid, and the combat's awesome. Like this is kind of what games are supposed to be.
Let's talk about the combat for a bit because I think people's mileage may vary on that front. Okay. I mentioned if you saw the preview that we did, it balances a heaviness and a slowness with nice responsive controls. And what I mean by that is it is as much a survival game as it is an RPG. Bullets are very rare unless you're scouring everything. There's a lot of emphasis on melee combat when you do run out of ammo, and a lot of the weapons that you're getting are slow firing revolvers, single shot sniper rifles, one in the chamber shotguns, stuff like that. I love that because it makes for that kind of high risk, high reward gameplay where you are fragile, but enemies can also be taken down with one headshot reliably every single time. And the intensity that comes from the almost intentional clunkiness and slowness of having to, get the bolt down before this enemy runs and twats you over the head with a cricket bat. I like that a lot, but it's not it's not a shooter. I think that's important to emphasize. The crafting system, because of course there's a crafting system, because like I said, there's a lot of survival elements in this.
The icon, it goes around and it pops.
Yeah, it does. You're going to be, crafting bandages. You're going to be crafting Molotovs. Again, not necessarily something you haven't seen in a bunch of other games like it. It's satisfying enough, but it's not That's not the most original aspect of it. And it's not even necessarily the most fun aspect of it. It's satisfying. I liked being in shootouts and, living out my Western dreams of getting my 6-shooter out and pop, 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 all in one go without reloading and missing a beat. But it's not going to completely blow you away in that regard, I don't think. Same with the crafting, same with the skills. It's all good, but it's not like next level.
And there's not, I don't actually know the answer to this. There's not, or is there a contextual cover system? Like in terms of your options in combat, like I think you can block, but you unlock a parry with the melee stuff. And just like in terms of that stuff, like you can take cover, but you're manually moving your character behind something. You're not popping out like Medal of Honor Airborne.
No, you're not. Sadly, Medal of Honor Airborne actually a real underrated gem.
I love that game's cover system.
Nah, it's functional, but again, it's nothing to write home by. There is a stealth system. It'll tell you when you're hidden, when you're hiding in tall grass. You'll be able to go behind people, snap their necks intentionally this time, and then sneak your way around places. But it's kind of rudimentary. One of the biggest gripes I have with the game is just the AI generally.
Okay.
This is a worry I had in the preview as well. They're quite dumb. They will just sort of beeline straight for you.
Right.
And don't get me wrong, they're dangerous if they get close to you. I was playing on the hardest difficulty and they hit absolutely incredibly hard once they got hold of me, but it was easy to kind of cheese them if you wanted to. It was easy to just get them off track. And even though they're very accurate, it's like, it's not.
It's very like game logic where it's there's a downed helicopter. Let me just run around it. And then immediately they go from the red state to the yellow state, and you can hide in the grass. And it's like, well, he must have disappeared.
Exactly.
Snap.
Yeah, and it's fine. It's okay. Again, it's not the focus of the game. I don't think the focus is on the exploration and the world that's being built. And again, it is still fun to get those headshots, to have those intense moments. I think the reason why I'm down on that element more than I was when I first started the game is that because the areas are smallish, you're doing a lot of backtracking through them. There's a lot of Metroidvania style design. Like I said, when you find a locked door, you can't open it until you got a key, so you got to come back to that place.
Okay.
The issue is if you take out a huge bandit camp and it costs you all of your ammo, those bandits will respawn the next time you're there. If you leave the zone and you come back to it, and it happened a few times where I had to go back to a place, and while that combat encounter many times was actually really fun. The first time I went through it, it just kind of made combat feel like...
You can just break a save doing that stuff.
Kind of, yeah. And intentionally so. You're not supposed to fight everyone. Resources are limited. You can back out of fights. But when you have to go back through those big dungeons almost, and the enemies have respawned and nothing's changed about their attack patterns or who's occupying the dungeon itself, it just you kind of think, ooh, I could have done without this. Maybe I should be rewarded in a way for killing everyone or getting in here before, because you just kind of it feels like you're redoing the level.
I don't know if you can change difficulty. I know you can change obviously difficulty, but I don't know if you can do that without losing too much progress. I think it does kick you back to your previous save. I don't know if difficulty affects respawn and ammo and things
when
like that.
I was messing around with this last night when I was going for the alternate endings, and I had to redo some sections, so I knocked it down from the hardest difficulty to the lowest difficulty. And honestly, it still kind of provided a challenge. It wasn't the easiest thing in the world. When I was getting hit, I really was like getting a big chunk of my health taken off, but it does increase the amount of resources you'll find. It gives you a waypoint, stuff like that. So there are ways to make that a little bit easier. I don't think it affects respawns in particular, but obviously if you're playing on a lower difficulty, it'll make getting through those areas easier because you've got more stuff, and it's not like you're wasting all of your ammo, because you'll find more ammo because you're on a lower difficulty level.
Overall, though, like we've been looking forward to this for a long time. Mainly just because I think, at least for me anyway, it was the regional stuff. More Geordies in games, like Gavin Final Fantasy 16 is awesome, and more of that stuff. And so the more that they showed this thing off, it was like one of the best B tier releases of the year, and I feel like we're in quite a crowded space. Like it's alongside Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, Avowed, the rumors of the Oblivion remake dropping in the next month or two. Like the first-person open-world RPG space is very full right now, but this, at least from what you said, seems very distinct.
I really enjoyed it. It is distinct in terms of its setting and story. It's very familiar when it comes to the combat loop and some of the gameplay elements. I definitely think if you got Game Pass, 100% give it a go. Absolutely give it a go. Full price, maybe look into it yourself a little bit more. Maybe wait until it drops down a little bit. There's so much competition right now. But yeah, just it's a satisfying length, Scott. It made me excited for the future. When I finished Avowed and I was really enjoying that game for the longest time, it ended with such a sour taste in the mouth. When I finished Atomfall, like I said, I was going back in for the other endings. I was thinking about getting one of the trophies, which is to finish the game in under 5 hours. I wanted more in a good way. It's a great first step, and I really hope they get to do a sequel because there's so much potential there. And while it might not be an absolute home run this time around, it's still very good, and I think they could really refine it going forward.